Hey, today we are going to chat all about low volumes and scrappy backgrounds. Okay, so low volume. First, let's go into what a low volume is. A low volume is a type of fabric that reads as light. So think white, cream, ivory, maybe a pale pink, a very, very light gray or tan. Those kind of colors you would consider, those kind of fabric colors you would consider low volume. And there's a lot of reasons for you to use a low volume, but what we're going to talk about low volumes today is in reference to scrappy backgrounds. And if you have my book A Life with Quilts, we go into pretty much everything that I wrote in that book right here in this chat. So you might have heard this all before, but here it is in visual instead of reading. All right, so I love the scrappy background look. I don't do it as much these days, but I try to do it every chance I can. There is many reasons that you might want to have a scrappy background, and one of the biggest reasons I can think of is because it's cute. It has this vintagey vibe to it or feel to it, and it just seems fun, playful, and it's just, I don't know, it just kind of it makes me think of my grandmother's quilts, things like that. She would just use whatever. It makes me think of that. Another really, really big reason why you would use scrappy background would be you don't have to go to the store and buy your background. So think about it like when in some of my quilt patterns, it tells you need 15 fat quarters of foreground and you need 4 yards of background. Who has 4 yards of a white color in their stash? I mean, you may have it, but most of the time, you're not going to have that amount. So you're going to have to go to the store. So for scrappy background, you could go shopping in your stash versus going shopping at the store and buying that solid, which, you know, I do both. So don't think I'm saying don't ever do that. When you want to use a solid, you want to use a solid. So, but this is just a moment like maybe your low volume stash is overflowing and you'd like to get it used, so that would be, let's do scrappy background. Or if you're thinking, I don't have the budget this month to buy those 4 yards, so let's just do scrappy backgrounds because I have a whole bunch of those low volumes. So those are kind of reasons why you might use the scrappy background. I'm going to show you not a lot, but I'm going to show you multiple quilts where I've used scrappy background. Before I get into that though, let's kind of talk about that 15 fat quarters and 4 yards. So no pattern is going to tell you this is what you got to do to make scrappy background, because patterns are just written, you know, to make the quilt pattern. They're not written to add on all these little extra things like that. So I'm trying to think of a quilt pattern that I've written particularly for scrappy background, and the only thing that's coming to me is Hello Posy, and even then I didn't break it down. But what I do to make it scrappy versus making it solid is that when a quilt pattern tells you on your background cutting instructions, when a quilt pattern tells you cut 10 6.5 inch strips and then subcut those into 6.5 inch squares, those 10 strips all come from a different fabric. That's how I approach the scrappy background. So I have these 3 different categories of low volumes. Whisperies, which are very minimal prints, almost all white, very little design going on. Mediums, which have more color than a whisper, more design, just a little bit more, right? And then you have busy prints, which I'm sure you know exactly what that is. It's a low volume, but it's just got a lot going on. It's busy. Those are the 3 types of low volumes. When I'm making a quilt, I want to try to use from each of those groups. I want my quilt mostly made up of whispery and middle low volumes, and I may throw in a busy here and there. If I made it almost all busy, then I would lose that foreground. I'm going to show you a quilt that I've done that on. You would just kind of lose those shapes, and it just wouldn't look as balanced. Your eyes would be pulled to those busier fabrics versus the star shape you've made in the middle of the quilt, right? So that's kind of one of the reasons why I want to have some of each of those categories of low volumes. And there's going to be even moments when you may not want any busies at all, and you want almost all whisperies or all whisper and middles. I mean, only you can decide what you need. Okay, so let's take a look at fabrics, and then let's take a look at some quilts. Okay, so let's dig in to some low volumes. All right, let me get this where you can see it. All right, so I consider there to be 3 different types of low volumes, like I've already mentioned. And what I'm gonna just do is kind of just show you some of the different ones. Let's just start pulling fabrics. All right, this is one of my fabrics. Actually, this entire set of drawers is where I keep my own fabrics that I've designed. And I have another set of drawers where I keep the rest of my stash. All right, so all of the fabrics I'm going to show you for right now is going to be my fabrics. And this one I think is from Cinnamon Tea, and it's a blender, and I would consider this a whisper low volume because there's just not much going on. It's pretty simple. And then let me just show you a busy so that you will have an idea of that. This is definitely a low volume because, you know, it's got the light background, and overall it kind of reads light, but there's so much going on with the design and color that I would call this a busy. This one I would also call a busy, and it's not got as many colors going on, but the design is a little bit big, and you know, it just reads busy to me. So I would call that busy. Let me get you a medium. All right, so this is actually the same fabric, just different colorways. This fabric is a middle, and it's a middle because this one has the bright yellow, which is making it really pop and making it busy. And this one has very pale colors. So it's still the same size design, but I would still consider it kind of in the middle. It's definitely not a whispery fabric, and it's definitely not busy because just the colors are so pale. So this is what I would call a middle. All right, this one, another low volume. This one would be another middle. So it's just kind of middle of the road type of low volume. If this is light, if this is whispery, and this is middle, and then this would be busy. So you kind of get the difference, right? Something like this would be definitely busy. We're kind of talking about scrappy backgrounds in this chat, but when I'm choosing backgrounds, when I'm choosing low volumes to use as a background and I want it to be scrappy, I don't want more than I don't want a whole quilt of busies as my background, because if I do that, my eye doesn't get any rest and the background starts competing with the foreground. So if I use like all whisperies, which I do like and I have done many times, if I use all whisperies, it just kind of almost looks white. And if I use a little bit of all 3, then I start getting this scrappy look, but not overwhelming, right? All right, so those are what I consider the 3 different types of low volumes. And now I'm going to show you a couple of quilts that I've made with that scrappy background look. Okay, so we are going to look at some quilts now, and of all my patterns, I think Little Miss, even though I don't have as many pictures of it, Little Miss seems to be the one that I think about the most when I think about low volume. All right, so here it is with scrappy background, low volumes all used, and on this one you can see that I Didn't use hardly any of those busy low volumes. It's like almost all pale and minimal. There's a couple, like right here. I would consider that one busy. And these birds are definitely something I would consider medium. But everything else is whispery and minimal. So the effect is that the background, the effect is that the stars pop, right? And yet you still have that scrappy look to it. Let me see if I have. Sometimes on these pictures where it's quilted, they don't, like this one, I'd like to show you this one, but the quilting kind of, you can't really see the fabrics because of the quilting. But that one's a lot busier. Let's see if I can find that one without being quilted, maybe a little bit. All right, this one's got a lot busier background, but I've still tried to keep it a bit balanced. Busy. I already said busy on that one. Let's see. Busy, but you know, whisper, 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 whisper. Let's see if I can find another quilt. I think this one's quilted, so the pictures don't come out as clear when they're quilted. All right, this is a really old quilt made by me. Really, really old. And I've done some things in this one that I would probably never do today. All right, so scrappy background. This background right there, that blue, I would probably never put that as a background today. I definitely think it grabs your eye and pulls it. And while it still has that scrappy look to it, I just don't like how much it grabs. The stars don't pop as much. And here's another thing, is this foreground, this pink foreground, in these fabrics I use, there's several foregrounds that don't pop that much on the background, and sometimes that's okay. But today, if I was going to make this quilt, I wouldn't have used as many busy low volumes because I have some really light foregrounds. And if I use a lot of busy with some light foregrounds, then the star shape right here kind of gets lost. So if I made this again, I'd definitely take out that fabric. I'd probably take out these little butterflies because I think it's too tan these days to go well with low volume. And then I feel like there's just way too many busies in here, and there's no place for my eyes to rest, and everything just kind of looks jumbled. That being said, I'm pretty sure I made that quilt for somebody and they loved it. So always, everything I'm saying here is obviously a preference. There's going to be somebody who loves the quilt and somebody who hates the quilt, okay? All right, but anyway, that's kind of a look out of a quilt that I'm just not into today because of the fabric choices. I just think there's just way too much going on. As opposed to this one I showed you earlier. Now this one, I'll give you, it's a little pale, but I think it's just so much cleaner looking, and it still has the scrappy background. Let's see if I got any more. Looks like I don't have the quilt top pictures of this one, but this one's better to me. Although I still say that I've got a lot of these would definitely be busy low volumes, and I'm not crazy about the darker low volumes mixed with the, I don't know. That one, I like that one much better than that purple one. All right, let's see. I think that's all of Little Miss. I'm trying to find quilts where I always use low volume backgrounds or scrappy backgrounds. All right, so this is one that I really, really love, and even that gray seems to be working. I'm pretty sure I customized this for someone, but this is an example of a decent balance, but still maybe leaning towards the busier side, because well, the thing is that the Dresden plates are popping in spite of the busy because they're all like kind of dark. But I think this is a good example of a busier background, but it still works. So it kind of just depends on the quilt, right? It depends on your foreground, your background. There are exceptions to every rule, I think. All right, I don't want to show you the ones that are quilted because they just don't, you can't really see. You can't really see them in those pictures. All right, let's see. Let's pull this one up. Okay, here's an example of a very balanced background. Lots of pale minimals, but I have this pop of very busy. I'm not sure I really like that pop of very busy, but there it is. I think I've got some good girls very. All right, so here, this is actually one of my fabric collections. And this is my Good Girl quilt pattern, and it's done up in my Earthy Goodness fabric line. And you can kind of see that there's a little bit of all three types of low volumes in this one. You've got your whispery ones, whisper. You've got your medium ones, and then you've got your busy. The bird is busy, the roses are kind of busy. But it does make it a lot of fun, these busier ones, but it kind of needs to always have like a little balance going on. Or then if you don't get that balance, it just kind of feels, you know, just too much. All right, this is kind of a twist on my Good Girl pattern. It's not quite as scrappy. And this one I used only whispery low volumes. Why is it not zooming in? All right, I used only whispery low volumes. And while I ended up really liking this quilt because I hand quilted all of this, while I really like this quilt, you can see how it's a little bit more boring compared to the ones with the busier. So this was, you know, purposefully done, by the way, but all whispery low volumes instead of adding a medium or a busy low volume. It kind of ends up looking like this. I thought I had another one, a Good Girl. All right, let's see. What else do I have? Oh, this is one I done recently. I did this one last fall. And this in the background is actually my light-hearted collection, which I created that collection to have some of each of the whisper, medium, and busy types of low volume, so that you could use lighthearted as your background and everything be, you know, ready to go. You don't have to think about anything too much. Looks like I did add some solid bits into this quilt as well. That looks like vanilla Kona or Michael Miller vanilla or something like that. But I like this one. This one I feel like kind of just, the low volume is got the right type of balance. Like, it's not boring, but it's not too much where it overwhelms you. My flowers blocks still pop amongst it. This seems like a good one for me, in my opinion. I think this is one that I donated to some kind of raffle. I don't remember now. But you can't, the quilting, you just really cannot ever see those fabrics that good in these photographs. Sorry about that. All right, let's see. We've already done Little Miss. I can kind of show you migration. And migration, this quilt, this is my migration quilt pattern. It's part of the Scrappy pattern pack pattern. This one has whispers and mediums, but I've not put any busy in it. And I like that too. This is a look that I kind of go back to often, just kicking those busier ones out. I feel like this is a very scrappy quilt and written to use your scraps, but you know, it's just not, your eyes have a place to rest, but it's still a lot of fun, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Oh, Sassy Granny. Let's see. This is a quilt that I made last year. And it looks like a mix of different low volumes. And again, I feel like this one strikes a good balance. I feel like maybe 2020, 2021, I really got a handle on my Scrappy low volume do's and don'ts. I think this quilt's from 2022, and it has a good mix of whisper, medium, and busy. So those yellow flowers are without doubt busy, 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 but not so much where it's overwhelming, not so much where you lose your foreground shape. And then there's plenty of calm fabrics to keep everything chill. Feels like I've made this quilt a couple times. Here's that same quilt with a solid. So you can see how nice and clean that looks compared to the Scrappy low volume, but again, we've already talked about why we like Scrappy low volume sometimes. All right, let's see what else I got. Soulshine, I don't think I've done any Scrappy background in Soulshine. Sugar Bear, here we go. Okay, here's Sugar Bear with just a nice solid white background. Everything pops, everything is super clean. But then here it is with Scrappy going on. And this is this one is all whispery. Let me see if I can get a picture with you, get a better. All whispery types of low volumes, so no mediums, no busy. And I think my reason is that I used some lighter shades in my foreground, like this pale peach, and I just really wanted the blocks to pop, but I still wanted to go Scrappy background. So that's completely doable. Just you would stick to those whispery low volumes. This is a really cute quilt, and this is a quilt that is still a work in progress, and it's stuck in my whip pile in my closet, and it's all done. I just need to get the thing quilted. So yeah, I need to do that. All right, let's see what else I got. All right, I think that is it on the quilt pictures I wanted to show you, but let me show you. All right, so let me show you at Meandering. I'm in my fabric shop, meanderandmake.com, right? Go to fabric, hit background bundles. All right, so we keep up these background, every now and then we're out of stock, but most of the time, as soon as we're out of stock, we'll like make up some more. But I want to show you, oh, we don't have any balance in stock. All right, so let me show you this one first, Whisper. So again, this bundle changes all the time. Every time it runs out of stock, I have to come up with some more fabrics and make a new one. But in the Whisper low volume bundle, they're all pale minimal. So you would get that whispery type of look, that where your foreground is going to pop. And I really like this one, this version. But anyway, that's a bundle that you could buy. We usually have Whispers in stock. We usually have balance bundles in stock. Let me show you that in a minute. Let me try to find one. And then I mentioned before, this is my Lighthearted. It comes in July. But in Lighthearted, that's my Lighthearted fabric collection. And it has, you know, your Whispers, your Busiers, your mediums. So it has all the 3 different styles of low volumes in the collection so that you get a more balanced look. Right, we're out of balance bundles in the shop at the time of recording this video. So let me try to find you our last one. Okay, here we go. Okay. So here is a balance bundle we sell, and I call them balance bundles because they have the 3 types of low volumes within them, and no fabric should be like overwhelming. Like you saw that quilt I showed you in the beginning here, where the blue just kind of overwhelmed, grabbed your eye, and distracted from the rest of the quilt. So these bundles are created for that to never happen, right? You've got your Whispers right down here. You've got, you know, mediums, and then you've got busiers. So I try, when I make these bundles up for the shop, I try to have some of each low volume in them so that you get this very balanced look that's not boring and not fun. Even though, that being said, there may be times when you need everything to be whispery. So those bundles are our whisper bundles, just for you to have those kind of situations. All right, so this is where I actually keep my stash, by the way, and it's, what do they call it when you're like showing your real your real space? Okay, so this is messy and this is pretty standard. Every now and then I get it cleaned up and looking super tidy, but I didn't put on airs for you. All right, so this is my stash, or it's actually part of my stash. This is what I consider stash. And I keep my low volumes down here. I actually keep my fabrics that I designed separate from the other fabrics I have. So I don't know why I do that. I might not do that forever, but I'm doing it now. So this is my low volume drawer. This is where I keep my low volumes, and it's actually not as full as it normally is, which some of you might be like, whoa, that's too much fabric. But other people will be like, girl, I've got so much more than you. So it just kind of depends on, you know, what you've got going on, or, you know, things like that. The longer you quilt, the more fabric you have, unless you're like super strict about it. All right, so here's my low volume drawer. This is how I keep my stash. I'm so excited for you. I'm so excited to get my new book released really, really soon, hoping by late summer. That is kind of all about organizing stash and stash. It's all about stash. It's going to be called Stash Work. But I just kind of wanted to give you a little look at what my low volume drawer looks like. And anytime that I decide that I want to make scrappy low volume, or I don't want to go buy a solid fabric, I just dig out of here and get what I need. Okay, I think that is it for today. If you have any comments or questions, just put them in the comment section below. And I've linked everything I've talked about pretty much. I've linked some of the places in the shop where you can find low volumes and bundles of low volumes, and every pattern that I showed you, I've also linked that below too, just in case you're interested in it. Thanks for watching and have a good day.